coming to a neighborhood near you. And as governor, I'm going to take a very strong stand to get back to law and order in this state and replace the leaders at Department of Justice, Department of Corrections, Department of Public Safety. I had a good call with John Kellner yesterday about how we can work together to do that. And, we're certainly in the same mindset about how to solve these problems, which is probably very similar to your mindset, George.
Tell me some of the things you're toying with right now that you're contemplating.
Well, like I said, we've got to replace leadership in the key agencies. We've got to address the parole board. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues, I believe, and one of the things that I can tackle as governor is I can replace a lot of those folks, not all of them because they roll over time, but replace the parole board. I've got to stop our status as a sanctuary state and get resources to the ICE agents, police officers, law enforcement down on the southern border of Colorado. When I travel down there, the look on the faces of law enforcement, oh my gosh, they're like, there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied. We put somebody in jail. They're out the next day. We watch them drive by us as they traffic and make Colorado a more horrible place. And Governor Polis and Joe Biden will not let us do anything to fix the problem.
I think the other thing that you have powers, and I know you know this, to make a big difference on things like that bail and who goes where, when, and how are judges. Every single Supreme Court justice we have, and this isn't to malign them, there are some on there who I have tremendous respect for, are all appointed by Democrats. There is no longer any justice that was appointed by Bill Owens on that bench. And all of the other state trial courts and court of appeals judges that you have, those have all been, I don't know if there's a single judge left out there that was appointed by a Republican. So you have the ability to change the judicial approach on this by putting people in place who appreciate the role that judges play in the public safety discussion.
Well, that's a great point, and it's something I've been involved with, as you know, in the family court system, as we've seen a lot of corruption and bad things going on there with judges, as well as what's happening with the investigation around the Supreme Court and some of the things going on in the Justice Department with judges, et cetera. But what I found is, it's really political these days. Judges are very political. And if we're going to play that game, we've got to put some very tough-minded law and order judges in place to help us solve these problems, to your point. And I'll do that for sure.
And I agree with you, Heidi. The way that this legislature, and I've said this every year since I was elected, the legislature seems more and more offender-friendly as opposed to victim-focused and public safety-focused. Every year they prove me right, and this last session was no different. And you'll recall that there was a bill that made possession of 1 to 4 grams, that's killing 2,000 human beings worth of fentanyl, a misdemeanor. And when people sat back and thought, that might not be smart. Maybe we make all fentanyl a felony. And you know who jumped on that train? Your opponent, the guy that signed the law into effect that made it a misdemeanor, all of a sudden says, you know what, it turns out I think fentanyl's like anthrax. Nonetheless, legislature still showed up, watered it down, still made it a misdemeanor under many circumstances, and made it really hard to prove as a felony. I wonder if there aren't other changes in the law that you've contemplated, whether through conversations with Kellner or just on your own. This is what I want to see different.
Yeah, and we certainly need to address bail reform and truth in sentencing so that career criminals stay in jail and don't get back out. I believe, George, we have one of the highest recidivism rates in the country, which means bad guys are doing more bad stuff because they're not staying in jail, correct?
Top
yeah.
5. Yep.
Yeah, and we have the second highest number of deaths from fentanyl in the country. I mean, the stats are outrageous, and all of this has happened in the last few years under the watch of Jared Polis and the Democrats and Joe Biden. You know, they are partners in crime, no pun intended, to take our state to a place that's very dark and not the Colorado that we all grew up with. That's my goal as governor, is just to undo a lot of this stuff and get us back to that beautiful way of life we had where, you know, we as people were trusted to make good decisions for our business, our life, our families, and we had safe streets.